It's Wednesday, September 13th, 2017. It's time for WorthPoint Chats with Harry Rinker. I'm Greg Watkins from WorthPoint.com, and it's time for our weekly conversation with Harry Rinker, our expert in all things antiques and collectibles. How you doing this week, Harry?
I'm doing okay. Still have no power down in my condo in Altamont Springs. I'm a little disappointed by that. We will not comment on my opinions about Duke Energy and their ability to get back up again. But it's a little disconcerting. We think about all the things that can cause problems for antiques and collectibles, and clearly one of the things in the South, well, two of the things in the South are temperature and humidity. And so, as long as you've got your antiques and collectibles in a air-conditioned environment, usually you're okay. But the minute you don't, it's a problem. And the difficulty with furniture especially, and that's the big one you get concerned about, is furniture can survive in the Arctic and it can survive in the tropics. What it can't survive is rapid changes of temperature, okay? And so all of a sudden, here you are, this stuff is in a nice cool environment, and voila, all of a sudden it starts getting hot in those apartments without air conditioning. It goes on for a week or so, and that furniture can have some serious contraction issues. So I've got some nice things down in Florida, and I'm getting a little nervous about some of the wooden stuff. Not so much the paintings and so forth, but I keep checking with the neighbor, and I keep going up on the internet site to see Duke Energy, and now they're saying they may not get power back until Sunday. That's a whole week. I'm not concerned about the food in the refrigerator, but I'm concerned about the goodies, as I always would be, of course.
Right.
But I think these are things that we forget about down there. The other thing, too, is that, it's high humidity time in Florida right now, and dampness is the enemy of everything. And what I don't want is a week's worth of dampness in there where mildew could get started on furniture. So that means that someone, I'm not sure it will be me, and definitely know it won't be my wife, maybe the cleaning lady will be getting down on her hands and knees and inspecting every piece of wooden furniture we have down there to make sure no mildew develops as a result of all of this. But it's an interesting thing. If you live in your individual home, you can get a generator, right? Not a big deal.
Right.
You gas power. Have enough gasoline to maintain it. But I live in a big condo group, and there are, I don't know, 13 or 14 buildings, and there's 220 condos, 2-story and 3-story buildings. I'm in a 2-story building. But the problem is that you can't throw a generator on your own system. I suppose there must be a way to do it, but I couldn't imagine. So you're subject really to the whims of getting the whole unit back up or not at all. Now, I did notice in the news today, and this is why I got a little concerned about the heat and humidity, was this kind of problem in this nursing home. Did you hear about that down in Hollywood, Florida, where
Yeah, I did. That's it.
And several of them passed away?
Yes.
And I'm thinking, that's there. But if you're on a second floor anywhere else, who's to say it's going to be any different? Now, the good news is my condo faces north and south, and the sun comes up east to west, so it's dark and cool in my condo most of the time anyway. I don't take a lot of direct sun, so I'm not overly nervous about it. But I'm getting a little concerned if the temperature doesn't, or the electricity doesn't get back on by Thursday or Friday, I may be one of the irate customers calling in Duke Energy and asking why somebody else is getting theirs and I'm not getting mine.
Right.
But you know how that goes. But anyway, in terms of talking about what's going on in the antiques and collectibles trade tonight, I got an email in today. Now, say I got an email in today and then I printed it out, and somewhere buried on my desk is an email from a gal that has written a book. Oh, yes, here it is. There's this gal out in California who has written a book called No Thanks, Mom, the Top 10 Choices Your Kids Do Not Want. Right?
Right.
And there have been a ton of articles recently. And by the way, she issued a press release of a top 10 earlier, and I disagree violently with a lot of things on it, but nevertheless, there's been a lot of negative press about antiques and collectibles. Kids don't want grandma's stuff. traditional antiques are a problem. And so, and I have to confess that, as a reporter in the trade, I get to report a lot of that negativity as things don't do well or categories fade by the wayside and that type of stuff. And I might pay to talk about what is the good news in the antiques and collectibles trade. And there is some, okay? First of all, the economic slide has stopped. Okay, that's the important thing. I think the most important thing of all is that the economic downfall of prices is pretty well evened out. If you look in the Worthopedia and you start watching the sell-through prices for objects, you'll see that they're not overly declining right now. They're not necessarily going up. They are in some areas, but they're relatively stable. Well, that means if you're interested in buying antiques and collectibles, now is a good time to go in the market. That's the first order of business. Now, are there bargains out there? Of course there is, but there were bargains even when prices were up. But things are better from that point of view. Now, of course, the auctioneers complain that brown goods aren't selling and this and that. It's not true that things do not sell. What's true is they're not selling for the prices they used to bring before. But there are sell-through price numbers. And those sell-through price numbers you can trust right now. In my opinion, it's bargain time out there. My Lord, if you wanted to buy traditional antiques and collectibles, even if you just wanted a few of them for sitting around purposes, you'd be amazed at how inexpensive some of the old traditional antiques and collectibles categories are. Now, there are, of course, the old-time dealers still hoping to get the old-time prices. You just ignore those and you keep hunting. I mean, this is another thing. It's a comparison shopping world out there. If you want the bargains and they're there, or you want the inexpensive low bottom prices, you got to hunt. You got to hunt around. But you can find them. That's the important thing. I mean, look at practice bombs, for example, like we did last time, right?
That's right.
It's bargain time for our practice bombs if you need one. No, or if you don't need one. So that's one piece of good news. There's a lot of bargains out there. The other interesting piece of good news is the market's flooded. Now, in a way, that's good too, because if you're looking for something, chances are you're going to find it. Really. Just out of curiosity, I went up on eBay a little while ago and ran in America Historical View, Staffordshire, China. And I was amazed to see how many pieces were up there. Now, admittedly, some of them were overpriced by my estimation in today's marketplace, but some were very reasonable. And again, this is one of the reasons why you got to study the market. But chances are, if you want to find something, it's out there. I mean, in one sense, people always say, well, the internet was really bad for the business. But the simple truth is that the internet was bad for the business in some ways. And one way was it increased the level of merchandise in the field times 10, 20, or 30. I mean, seriously. Things that people thought were rare in 1995 are commonplace in 2017. And that's just because far more of these things survived than anybody ever thought. So that's a piece of good news. There are buyers out there. Now, here's the situation. Today's buyers are not collectors. They're people who decorate with stuff, reuse stuff, and do other things. The difficulty is they are called in and out of the market buyers, one-time buyers. They're looking for something, they come into the market, they find it, they buy it, and they get out. But they don't necessarily buy multiples, or if they buy multiples. But it does mean they're willing to buy. And if the price is right, especially if it makes it easy to use it, they're there. The good news is that we are losing some antique shows, but not anywhere near the number we lost 5 years ago after the 2008-2009 recession was almost 10 years ago. 2017, yes, almost eight years ago. And after that, we took some very heavy hits at antique shows and stuff. I've talked to promoters, and it's tough to maintain dealers. It's tough to get crowds, but they are surviving. We're not seeing a lot of new shows opening, unfortunately. But But the good news is that the standard flea markets that have been around, that are there for the long term, are still there. And so you can go to Brimfield's, you can go to Renninger's in Pennsylvania, or you go to Renninger's in Florida. You can go to your local antique mall, and if that antique mall was there 5 years ago, it's likely to be there today. Survival rate's high for the antique malls and the antique shows, and even for some of the auction companies as well. So that's a positive piece of news too. I mean, they would be out of business if it was otherwise.
Right. True.
The other, I think the rise of the estate sale market is a plus in the antiques and collectibles trade. Now, it's very interesting. In the 1970s, back in Bethlehem, when I was, well, actually in the late 60s, early 70s, when I was working for Historic Bethlehem, the estate sale people, those are the people that get an estate, price everything, sell it in a weekend, and then what doesn't sell, they send out to a liquidator. They compete with the auctioneers. And back and then, the country auctioneers were strong in Pennsylvania, the weekend gavel bangers. And they hated the estate sale people and largely put them out of business. Well, today, the mid-range and larger auction companies are solid, and the weekend auctioneers are struggling. And so on this scene is the estate sale people. And then the number of estate sales has increased significantly. You go to estatesales.net, for example, and look in your area, you're going to find tons of them. Now, this is different than a garage sale or yard sale. These are sales done by professional people. And most of them fully understand that, that the market, the price they're going to put on pieces is somewhere between 60 and 80% of market. And then, of course, if it doesn't sell on the first day or they get down to half price day, it's 20, 30% of the market, which is a dealer level. So there are bargains to be had out there at estate sales. And I've had a lot of opportunity recently to catch estate sales and so forth. And I think their growth is a good thing. Now, one of the things that's happening, however, which is fascinating, is in this digital age, and this is another positive thing in the antiques and collectibles. The antiques and collectibles field is adjusting to the digital age. There are now digital estate sales. There are now estate sales where everything is sold on the net, and then you just go pick it up. But auction companies are picking up on this too. Instead of having a standard catalog auction with people in seat and people on the phone and people on the internet, they are now doing smaller internet auctions that they're just internet. They're done weekly. And guess who's involved in that? Heritage Auctions is now starting weekly estate sales or mini auctions on the web and only on the web.
Really?
Yes, and doing very well.
And so you have to drive down to Dallas to pick it up, or will they ship it for you?
No, they'll ship. They'll ship. But the estate sale people will not. But the auction companies will always ship. I mean, let's say yes, at a price. That's you pay for it, and they're still charging heavy buyer's penalties, and they're also charging a fee to use your credit card, which is illegal, but they do it anyway. But I still think it's a positive thing. People are experimenting with this digital age which we live in, and we're starting. I think a lot of the digital startup companies in the antiques and collectibles trade are gone. That the established companies like Ruby Lane and TS for shops, as well as eBay and SD. In fact, just have to tell you, I bought my first thing through SD a couple of weeks ago, and I had been very, very reluctant to use SD. I don't know why, because I'd see stuff up there, but I just didn't feel comfortable with it. And then I was looking for something, and it was with a young lady. She had an SD up in Canada, and I had a wonderful buying experience from her. And then, of course, I mentioned this on the radio, and guess who responded? Our good friend from San Antonio, Mr. Art.
Art, yeah.
Art wrote me and said that he has been buying and selling on SD for the last number of years. He also has a big eBay shop, too. But he's been buying and selling on SD and doing very well. And said, you should, he just wanted me to know that based on his experiences, you should be able to buy and sell on Estee with just as much confidence, or maybe even more so, than eBay. In fact, he mentioned he has more trouble if there's a claim. eBay is much tougher with dealing with claims than Estee is, apparently, who works very closely to get them satisfied very quickly. So I think there is positive news out there in the antiques and collectibles trade right now. And I'm encouraged by that, really. So there you are. The other thing, too, is look at the trade papers. Now, people will say, well, the antique trader is a shadow of his former self, and that is indeed true. But, we haven't lost a trade paper in the last few years. After the 2008 recession, we lost a number of them. But the established trade papers, the regional trade papers and the national trade papers, seem to be set and seem to be surviving reasonably well.
So the market is shaken out, and the ones that are left are.
Yeah, I have to say, I can get very negative at times, and I have to check myself on that. I agree with you. I think the market has shaken itself out, and we're a better market. We're a leaner market. We're not the go-to market anymore for people that just think all you need to be an antique dealer is a car trunk, or at least a flea market dealer.
Right.
Well, no, but there were a lot of those people in the 90s, let me tell you, and even in the early 2000s, and then the recession. But no, I think we're a stronger market overall in a whole lot of aspects. Now, the big question, of course, is will the collectors return? And that's the subject of a whole other top discussion at one of these shows. And the answer is no, they're not going to return. We have to find a way to deal with that. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with things. What's your thinking on all of this?
I think that people are not going to collect like they used to. We're saying going to shop for things that are for decoration, but there are a lot of people that don't have any memory of using these pieces, so they don't have any personal connection to them, and the things that are getting collected are things from the 80s and 90s now, and you still aren't going to have a dozen Rubik's cubes on the shelf. You're going to have one because there's no need to have every variety of them.
And I think that's the thing that we have to face too. Another thing too is I think the economy's solid again. I mean, the stock market's up. There's a lot of discussion now about the middle class is more stable than it's ever been before, and its income is rising. And we're a discretionary thing. Now, admittedly, we as an antiques and collectible market have to compete for that discretionary dollar with the so-called adventure things, the holidays, the hiking, the camping, the activities, and so forth. And that industry is taking a lot of money away from us right now. But still in all, it's like a pie. There's money out there, and with the proper kind of encouragement and stuff, I think people will spend it, at least in some of our area. And I agree. I think I guess if there's another positive thing that came out of the market or in the market right now, is that dealers have stopped looking down their noses at stuff made after 1960. Because you're right about one thing, the hot decades are the 80s and 90s. And I hate to think that they're going to be the 2000s sooner or later, but nevertheless, they will be. And again, the generation that grew up in the 80s is in their 40s. And that's the time when nostalgia sits in. They're gonna want some of their childhood back again, or some of the things that remember at mom's and dad's house. So it should be fascinating. Well, speaking of things that are around the house, or better yet, the local bar.
The local bar?
The local transition there.
I like that.
You like that one, right?
Yes.
We got it interesting.
Down at the pub, right? They have these things.
Well, yes. There's a song. Ist das nicht ein Schnitzelbank? The Schnitzelbank song. And it's kind of a song sung to pictures. And it starts out, Ist das nicht ein Schnitzelbank? Now, for people who do not understand, a Schnitzelbank is like a a bench that you sit on with a lathe, and you shave shingles for roofs, or you can shave stuff, to be used in construction. Okay.
With that wicked two-handed.
Yes, with that
blade.
little wicked two-handed thing where you better hope there's something between your human parts and that, in case
That blade, that's right. Yes.
Yes, I've always wondered about what effect that may have had on a number of people who misused it, but we won't go there because it sounds painful.
Well, there is that big sort of stopper thing right there on the bench, right?
Well, in theory, there
In
is
theory,
that.
well, if it's got all its pieces.
But if the thing is really sharp, gosh only knows. So,
True.
but anyway, but there was this song. It's called "Ist das nicht dein Schnitzelbank?" Ja, das ist ein Schnitzelbank. I do shiny Schnitzelbank. Now that's how the song opens. But then there is a chart with double pictures, and then you said "Ist das nicht," hey, whatever that, I know, whatever that is, and then I know what that is, and you say this one, that one, and then Schnitzelbank, and so forth. Only as the song progresses and you get more things involved in the loop, when you come to the end of saying the two things, you have to repeat everything in the order.
All 16 of the things, right?
And the object is to go faster and faster. Well, we got an interesting one in because I'm not going to tell you. I only know this because I saw pictures in the book, right?
Right. You know firsthand experience.
But no firsthand experience of what we're about to talk about at all. But they were a popular wall hanger in bars, especially bars in Germanic and European areas, okay? So we got one in, interestingly enough, if we can get the picture up, from the Catasauqua Eagle Brewery that supposedly was in a local bar in Veracruz, my hometown in Pennsylvania, where I had my school. I had the former Veracruz Elementary School. And here is the Catasauqua Eagle Brewery Schnitzelbank song. Now, probably from the 1930s, somewhere between "Ist das nicht ein gutes Bier?" Oh my goodness, well, we never sang that. Ja, das ist ein Schnitzelbank. There you go, and you go on down. Now, the fun thing about this one, let's scroll down here a little bit here. Now, you see, "Ist das, nicht ein Lichtputzer? Ist das nicht ein Hin und Her? Kreuz und Queer, Schießgewehr." Those are, isn't this the candle stand? Isn't this a swing? Isn't this a sawbuck? Isn't this a dangerous weapon? But some of them were not quite as nice as that as you scroll down. And there you see on the left there, "Ist das nicht ein Haufen Mist? Ist das nicht ein Schnitzelfriss?" Well, suggesting that maybe some of them are equivalent to cow manure. And then you had,
what is this? Is this an oxen's bladder up here?
Yeah, Oxenblast, yes. Ist das this ein großes Glas? Is that next? But then you say, "Ist das nicht eine dicke Frau?" Ja, das ist ein dicke Frau. Ist das nicht ein fette Sau? Well, the dicke Frau is a fat woman, and the fette Sau is a fat pig. Well, you can see where that could get a little dangerous there in the date social world. But what happened to the wedding? Keep on going down, though.
That's the end of it.
No, it can't be. What? No, something's missing. Oh, this one doesn't have the wedding ring. It says, "Ist das nicht ein Hochzeitring? Ist das nicht ein gefährliches Dinge? Is this not a wedding ring? Is this not a dangerous thing?" No, wow. Go back up again. Did we miss that one? I don't think so. Oh, my goodness. Well, I don't like this one. This one isn't fun to sing. But some of them were very politically incorrect. Well, anyway, here it is, and I actually have one of these in my collection. My good friend Dave Bausch, who's up in Allentown, has it, and so I had you go onto the Worthopedia, right? And yes. We came up with one for the Catasauqua Brewery, right? I think it's the first one, is it?
No? Yeah. Let me look here.
Yes, and it sold for $60, right?
Right. Just earlier this summer.
Yes, 2017. Now, what you have to understand is that this was printed and reprinted dozens of times. The song dates back until in the 1840s. And while most people sang it in bars, actually, we learned it. I got a note from Dana Marican, who's my is really my proofreader of my Rinker collection. But she said she learned it at school. Remembers learning it in school as a round song. And you can look at some of the other ones there too. Take the third one in there. Here's another version of Schnitzelbank there. And there it's sold for $75. Should we get a look at yeah, and there you can see a different set of symbols again on it. There is the Wagenrad and the wavy lines, but I don't see.
Well, there's the ring. There's the wedding ring.
Oh yes, and the dangerous thing there, right? So there were a variety of different symbols around depending on which version of it you sung. Now, what was interesting in researching this on WorthPoint is that we came up with different groups of them, didn't we?
Yes.
I forget now. This one you found by typing in what, Schnitzelbank song?
Well, this one is Schnitzelbank song, and they had it a couple of ways. You can separate Schnitzel and Bach, and
get different results.
And get different things.
Oh, I just
it's Bank versus Bach.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
By the way, I just noticed that another one, there was a mug that had the symbols on the side of it too.
Yeah, the Steins.
The Steins, yeah. Isn't that neat?
Yeah.
1956 German Stein, sold for $30.
Half liter, yeah.
Well, that way you have to keep hearing the Stein to sing the song, but why not?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Now, what's the Musketeers doing there? Don't tell me the Musketeers had a version of the.
They may have.
No, that can't be right. Well, anyway, there's some strange things that appear in these listings from time to time. But now the question.
No, they did sing it. Schnitzelbach.
No.
Yes.
Mickey Mouse sang a drinking song?
There it is.
Well, learn something new every day.
The Musketeers sang it.
Okay, I quit right now. I'm totally disillusioned.
I'm pretty impressed that Annette and the gang would sing that song.
Well, I'm sure they weren't drinking beer when they recorded it. Well, maybe they were. I don't know. But anyway, there was one listing though where a guy had a fairly early one, turn of the century one. He wanted $200 for it. Now I'm going to tell you what. Is that where is the one? Do you have it there? No.
I don't know which one it was that you noticed.
But there was one in a frame for $200. And you know what my attitude is? They should put that in his coffin when he dies, and they can all sing as they walk by the coffin drinking beer. I mean, get real to all of this. I mean, the old concept, just because it's old doesn't mean you've got value. But anyway, it's interesting to see how much stuff there is out of this, right?
There are a lot of different versions of the song.
Yes, there are. And the other thing, too, is that you do have to be, this is a great example of whether you're doing a search on eBay or Google or on WorthPoint. How you spell things, how you punctuate them. You have to play around, right?
Yeah.
Now which one is this here?
Okay, this one is the
Budweiser. All right, and that was $267.
But that was 7 years ago.
Okay, so they're not Schnitzelbaching as much these days as they did back then. But I was about to say that this is another case too where people say, "What's it worth?" Well, this is a case where location is everything about what this is worth. First of all, if in the area where the brewery is located, in Dubois is in Pittsburgh, if I remember correctly, it's going to have a far higher evaluation there than it will 50 miles or especially 500 miles away. That's the first order of business. The second thing is it's got to be in an area where there's a love of beer, because if you don't have local taverns and beers, nobody's going to give a hoot about it on that. But anyway, it's all right, and it's fun. It was a nice thing. I want to thank the person for sending that in. We're going to take a moment right now to comment that we'd like to hear from you. Let me start by saying, first of all, if you were involved in Hurricane Harvey or Irma, and collectors whose homes have been flooded or heavily damaged by wind, we would love to talk to them. We'd love to hear from you to tell us who they are and tell us how to get in touch with them. We need some personal stories from that. If you would like to have us comment on something, you should send us an email and we will gladly do that. Or if you have an object you'd like us to talk about, like we just did with the Schnitzelbank song, you can send it to us. Make sure you provide a lot of information, how you acquired it, what's it worth, size, markings, photographs, as many as you can send us. We really appreciate the more variety, the better, especially the detailed ones. And the address to send all this to is community@worthpoint.com. Community@worthpoint.com. Our mailbag is a little empty in terms of viewers of our video, but fortunately, my radio show, What You Got, which airs on Sunday mornings from 8 to 10 Eastern, 7 to 9 Central, 6 to 8 Mountain, 5 to 7 Pacific time, or just remember 8 to 10 Eastern and adjust your clocks accordingly, airs live on www.gcnlive.com, www.georgecharlienancylive.com. And we spin off some of the questions we get in What You Got over here onto this, just because I think they're interesting and they're worth exploring. Well, we started a little bit early tonight. You don't look as tired as you normally do, only because you've had the last 3 days off because of this, some of the electrical issues in your area, right?
That's right. The Irma came by, and although our neighborhood was fine, we didn't lose any power on this side of town. The next county over, Gwinnett County, has a lot of power out, and so schools have been out for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and so I have not had to get up at 4:45 every morning. Tomorrow,
that's why you look so well rested. I see it. By the way, what happened to the sports games? Are all the sports activities going forward as originally scheduled?
You mean the professional sports or the or high school athletics?
No, professional sports.
Everything other than the Miami-Tampa game last Sunday, I think, is going on as scheduled.
Yeah.
Some of the colleges canceled their games.
All the Florida football,
Florida stuff. Yeah.
Major college games were canceled.
Right.
And
in Georgia, there's no effect.
Well, in a way, some people are a little concerned that the storm didn't do as much damage as they thought, although certainly Harvey did more. But don't ever assume that they didn't know what they were doing. I think the fact that damage was as minimal as it was thanks to all the prompt warnings we had out there. In the future, one of these, we'll talk some more about protecting your collections against hurricane and other damage. But meanwhile, I'm going to say goodnight because I've been grading papers and I have to work tomorrow.
Yes, and I've got to go back to school myself. So.
All right. Well, you have a good thing. We'll do it next week at the same time.
Right, we will. All right. So until then, Harry, we'll say goodnight.
Good night, sir.
Good night.